everybody, Smart Silver Stacker here. I know we haven't talked in a while. I saw a comment recently on one of my videos that I had sold all of my silver. So I guess there are some folks out there watching the videos that think because I haven't posted in a while, I've given up on silver as a metal and I've liquidated my holdings. But I wanted to go ahead and talk to you guys and dismiss those rumors. Really, that comment just made me realize it was time to put a video out. And I know it's been a while, but I've just kind of been busy with some other projects. Kind of been concentrating my labor and efforts in other directions. I haven't been doing too much stacking. I'm going to tell you about that. But I am still here and I do like talking with you guys, so glad to put a video out today. I actually have a question for you guys about this silver bar specifically. I'll get to that in just a moment, so stick around. But as you can see, I haven't sold all my silver. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've never sold an ounce of physical silver. I don't think I've ever sold any. I've sold some mining shares and ETFs and stuff like that, but I'm pretty sure every ounce of physical silver I've ever bought is still around. So anyway, now that you guys can rest assured that I am indeed still the Smart Silver Stacker, I'm not the Smart Silver Liquidator, we can get down to some business and talk about some stuff. I mentioned that I've been working on some other projects and just kind of focusing on some other stuff. And the reason is it's not because I don't view the price level that we have in silver right now as an opportunity. In fact, I think it still is an advantageous price to be stacking. I just think that from a personal level, silver as an asset had kind of become overweight in my portfolio, so to speak. So I've been focusing on some other things. And one thing I've been stacking is silver in color, but it's not actually metal, although the bag is. This is a Mylar bag stuffed full of rice. It's heat sealed, and it's got an oxygen absorber and a desiccant in there. This stuff should last quite a while, probably longer than a natural human lifespan. So stacking up food and having some essential preparations I think is a good idea. It's not the only reason we stack, but one of the reasons that a lot of stackers stack is so in the event of some kind of disaster or loss of purchasing power with the currency, you still have something to trade with. And one of the things that can happen in dire situations like that is, food shortage. Even what we saw last year with the, health crisis we've been facing and the disruption of distribution systems, we saw shortages of some food items. I don't think anybody was hurting for calories per se, but it just shows you how fragile the system that we live in is. And so having some kind of food insurance, it's kind of like silver is your financial insurance and this stuff is your food insurance. Having that on hand in the future, if there ever is some kind of a food shortage, you're not forced to sell your silver for food. Because if you're being forced to do that, you're probably not getting the best deal for your money. So good idea to have a little food on hand as well. Anyway, one of the reasons I haven't put out too many videos lately also is that in terms of economic developments, it's been kind of more of the same. For a long time we had inflation numbers were coming out higher and higher than expected. And the Fed and most of the voices I heard out there in the mainstream just kept calling inflation transitory, saying it was temporary because of the measures we had taken to bail out the economy, and there was some extra money creation there. So that was working its way through the system, but it was just going to be transitory. And now it seems like the tune is changing because it's been a while and the numbers are still coming out higher. But anyway, it just seemed like it wasn't really too worthy of commentary because I think it's fairly obvious with the debt levels we have right now. What are we at? $28.6 trillion and rising. It's not likely that any steps are going to be taken by the Fed to rein in inflation. That also has to do with the price of silver. I think that one of the reasons that the price of silver hasn't really responded to all of this inflation data is that people see the inflation data coming out higher than expected, and they assume that the Fed is going to move to counteract that. And, that is kind of part of the Fed mandate is supposed to be to keep inflation under control. They are, of course, more and more dovish about allowing inflation rates to rise, and they don't seem too concerned about it with the way they create money out of thin air. I think that the Fed is much more frightened of deflation. Given the staggering levels of debt that we have at almost all levels, it kind of makes sense that you'd be more concerned about deflation because inflation can, at least in theory, get rid of those debts because they'll be repaid in devalued currency. But people think that the Fed is going to go ahead and try and tighten when they see this inflationary data come out. And that is why I think investors have responded the way they have in terms of the precious metals. But the fact is that the Fed, they may make some nominal move at controlling inflation. They may try to ramp up rates a little bit, but I really don't think that they're going to be able to do anything meaningful in the long term, because as soon as they go ahead and rein in rates or make any attempt at tightening, the economy is going to react so negatively to that, and markets will react so negatively to that, that they'll have to reverse course, and probably what we'll end up seeing is just more stimulus. That is my firm prediction for the long term. One of the reasons that we're not going to see any attempt to raise rates is because there's no end in sight to government spending increases. We just got this infrastructure bill passed, which is going to cost several $trillions. It doesn't seem like there's any hint of fiscal restraint coming from Washington. Although, and I don't like to get too political on this channel, but I will go ahead and say, seeing the way that the situation in Afghanistan has gone lately, comment on that just a little bit because it's in the news right now at this moment. If you've seen my previous videos, I don't agree too much with this administration, or really the previous administration either, in terms of economic policy. But I will say that I am glad that we are getting out of this seemingly endless war, and I think a lot of people are going to dogpile on the president for being weak and for pulling out in a disorderly way, but extending our stay there was probably just going to cost us significant more lives and also money, and so I really think that getting out of an endless war is usually a good move. People are going to blame Trump and people are going to blame Biden. There's going to be attacks across the board. But if you really want to find a scapegoat for the situation in Afghanistan, I don't think you have to look any further than old Dick Cheney and his sidekick, George W. Bush. So anyway, like I said, I don't really like to get too political on this, but I did feel like commenting on that just because it's something I've been seeing in the news a lot lately. And, one thing that I will say is sort of, you got to appreciate the irony with is, Joe Biden's fairly recent comments about the Second Amendment, where he's saying owning firearms to defend yourself from a tyrannical government isn't a legitimate reason to own firearms, because you would need to have F-15s and nuclear weapons to take on the government. So maybe he should have just said what you need is caves and antiquated military equipment from the Soviets. But anyway, that's really not too much to do with silver. It's sort of divergent from silver. Although I will say that the idea of having honest money and limited government sort of does go hand in hand with the idea of not having endless wars abroad, at least in my view. So I don't know if all stackers out there agree. I'm sure they all don't. And you go ahead and feel free to let me know in the comments below. I'll probably hear about it on this one. But let's get to that question I mentioned. I'll probably get to hear about it from you guys on this one too, because I don't know if you've seen it, but I did a video a while ago called The Smart Silver Stacker's Guide to Silver Bars. And really all that video is I just have a bunch of silver bars out on a table and I kind of go around and I talk about each one. And one of the bars in that video is this Mint ID bar. And the gimmick with this bar is it's got this little NFC tag on the back. You can hold up your smartphone to it with the Mint ID app and it will scan it and tell you the serial number of the bar and whether it's a authentic silver bar or not. And I'm pretty sure that this little NFC tag here is just a little sticker you can take off. So, I wouldn't necessarily hesitate to get one of these if you're concerned about it. But at the same time, there's plenty of other silver bars if you don't want to get one with a NFC radio tag on it. And the reason I mention this is because in that video, I briefly talk about this. But then in the comments, it was one of the things I heard about most from you guys. A lot of people said, I'll never have silver that can be tracked. And to me, I don't know, it seems a little bit unnecessary to be concerned about that. I mean, if you're watching this video on a smartphone or a computer, you're probably being tracked anyway. Also, if you, at least passively, like it's being recorded somewhere. And if you bought your silver online from an online dealership, they also probably know who you are. Unless you go to a local coin shop and pay cash for every transaction, you're not really being that anonymous with your silver purchases anyway. But a lot of people in the comment section of that video seemed very concerned about having a radio identification tag on your bar. Now, I thought this is kind of a clever invention and a good way to prevent counterfeits. I personally view counterfeits as being a much bigger threat to stackers than being tracked. Also, if you're not familiar with NFC technology, you have to be inches away to scan it. And I even had people in the comments saying that 5G is going to track these bars, and at the border they have machines that can scan every $100 bill that goes through there. And I don't know, I wasn't able to really substantiate any of those claims looking around. In fact, pretty sure NFC technology, you got to be within inches. I don't think anybody's going to be able to track your bar. But since it has sparked some controversy in the comments section, I thought I would go ahead and just put this bar out there again, specifically with the question is what you guys think about these. Would you ever stack a Mint ID bar? Or does it freak you out? Do you think you're going to get tracked by some nefarious force? So let me know in the comments below. I'd really like to know. And it's good to talk to you guys again. I'm glad to be putting out videos again. I'll try to be a little more consistent with the channel. And if you haven't seen that Smart Silver Stacker's guide to silver bars, go ahead and check that out. Kind of a cool video. You can check it out right there. And I will catch you guys next time. Smart Silver Stacker out.